Hello, my name is William the Avid Reader, and today I'm reviewing We the Living, written by Ayn Rand in 1936. So, this is Ayn Rand's first novel. It's about 500 pages, and it's about a story set in Soviet Russia, and the events span from about 1922 to 1925. So the book starts with the young Kira. She's 18, and she's returning from the Crimea, and she's heading back to Petrograd or St. Petersburg or Leningrad, the second capital of Soviet Russia, because they are to start their life again. So she's from a so-called bourgeois family. So she was her family was of business owners, and since her origins, the new regime setting up a dictatorship of the proletariat. So now discrimination has started against the bourgeoisie. So an interesting thing. So they claim that this is a fair regime, but it's honest at one point that it's not. The justice there is not impartial, since it favors the proletariat over the bourgeoisie. So in practice, a hierarchy has been set up, and at the top you've got the leader, Lenin or Stalin, with the higher ups of the Politburo. Then under them you've got the intelligence agencies like the GPU, and they have a lot of power to make stuff happen. And there's also corruption there, so they will do anything to prevent a scandal of a member of the GPU. And then under them you've got Communist Party members, the All Union Party they call it. Under them they've got the so-called proletariat, so the workers. They are often who were sometimes dissidents. And then at the bottom you've got the bourgeoisie. So now the bourgeoisie have become the new underclass, because they get less rationing, they don't get necessary medical help. The only options they have are some private options, because with the Lenin policy of the new economic policy, some minor private businesses are permitted, but it's very expensive, so they can't really use it. And Rand has some type of Randian romance in the book, and a love triangle, so it's always one woman and two men. And this time you've got Kira, the main character, and then you've got Leo, son of a Russian imperialist admiral who was executed, famous admiral. And then the third guy is Andrei. So he's a GPU officer, member of the Soviet intelligence agency, and he's also a communist. And the GPU have good pay. They've always got money. They've got special privileges. So Kira gets money from Andrei to pay for Leo's tuberculosis, because the Soviet government is they're quite apathetic about Leo's plight, because they're like, what's one aristocrat in the road to the revolution? And then Andrei, he's has to deal with, is he a communist or is he for freedom? And he puts at one point Leo in jail. He gets him because Leo has been involved in some dubious affairs. Since it's a communist country, you're banned from doing most things, and he's been engaging in some business to make some money. So he gets caught for this, and he's about to be executed. But Kira makes Andrei realize that that's not good. So Andrei makes this big speech about how the communists are wrong, and she has gotten Leo released, and he blackmails one of his former friends, a frenemy now, and he's he's transferred from the GPU, and he's soon to be purged from the Communist Party. And they have these regular purges when Lenin goes. They purge the party regularly. They get rid of so-called Trotskyists, those who are not practical, those are too idealists. And then he's on his way, but instead he decides to commit suicide. So, and he gets a big Soviet funeral, because he sacrificed so-called for the proletariat's dictatorships. And Liu ends up going to the Caucasus with the mistress of him, and Kira, she tries to escape Soviet Russia. She also leaves her family without saying anything really to anyone except her uncle Vasily, which has refused to work for the government and disinherits his son Victor because there's a moment when his son Victor learns of some revolutionary activities that his brother-in-law Sasha is participating in. He goes to the Soviet authorities and he gets both his sister Irina and Sasha sent to these labor camps in Siberia. So this makes Vasily disinherited, and the uncle Vasily likes Kira, so he doesn't do anything about her leaving. I think he knows that she's leaving. So she's trying to escape to the Latvian border, and she gets shot by a Soviet border guard, and she maybe she made it across the border, maybe she didn't, but she smiles and she's happy when she died because she knows that she lived for her ideals, the ideals of a person who is selfish or self-interested, that she tried to fulfill her dreams, because earlier on she wanted to be an engineer, then she didn't that, so then she was involved in her free love things and a free thinker and things like that, and she got near to escaping to freedom in Latvia, because Latvia was not yet a Soviet puppet state. It was one of those free countries. So yes, the book ends in 1925, and of the three main characters, two are dead. One is shot, Kira. The other one committed suicide. Andrew and Leo, he has escaped to Crimea. So the ending is not really as happy as, say, Atlas Shrugged, but it's, in my belief, a better book than Atlas Shrugged. It analyzes better in totalitarianism, because in Atlas Shrugged, the punishers, those who enforce on you slavery, they always ask for consent in Soviet, but in this book in Soviet Russia, they don't. So we get to see what totalitarianism really is, and that it not just happened under Stalin, but it's also happened under Lenin previously. Not Stalin made it a bit worse, you can see that this totalitarianism is gradual, because Leo, he has all these rooms inherited, this apartment inherited from his father. He has all these rooms. First, the Soviet government, they seize 4 of his 7 rooms. Then they cut it down to 2 rooms and then to 1 room. This is historical fiction. This is a pretty good, if you want to get a good idea of how life was in totalitarian Soviet Russia in the 1920s, with all the poverty and the bread lines and the terror, you should read We the Living. And as I said, it's semi-autobiographical, because Ayn Rand, she's a Russian. She was a Russian American, and she grew up in Soviet Russia before going to the United States. So yes. So how would I rate this book, We the Living? I think of back to Atlas Shrugged, which I also read, and I preferred, and I would rate this book 9 out of 10. Atlas Shrugged, but this is a high 9. Atlas Shrugged, I would probably rate an 8. It's also a good book, but it's a lot less nuanced. We get to see in We the Living communists who aren't necessarily bad guys, and then you've got so-called ex-bourgeois members who, they're not communists, but they still hold some traditional values, and we see that Kira's family in their own way try to oppress her, and we get to see her cousin is evil. So it's a nuanced book, but it's also doesn't put any punches on what Soviet Russia really was like in the 1920s. So it's a great book, it's a great read, and it's 500 pages. So yes, I would totally recommend reading We the Living. So Ayn Rand did a good job on her first novel. So that was the Avid Reader's review of We the Living, written by Ayn Rand in 1936. I hope you enjoyed this review, and I will see you guys next time.